Madam Regina Hammond. Okay. So you are representing, okay. You are, all right. He will introduce himself. Please, let's welcome him well. And please, you have 40 minutes maximum, including open forum question time, to round up this session. Thank you very much.
Good evening, distinguished guests, excellencies present, the presidents of chambers, business leaders, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, I'm not Madam Regina Hammond. My name is Opeyemi Alaron. Unfortunately, Madam Regina can't be here with us. She's indisposed. My name is Opeyemi Alaron. I'm a technical advisor with the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. And to be my pleasure to moderate this very important and final session, which will focus on the topic, the role of the Chambers of Commerce in regional trade facilitation and economic integration. As we've seen from the two panel sessions previously, there are numerous challenges that have been expanded upon. Issues affecting business as it comes to infrastructure, as it comes to investment, and as it comes to taxes. And this being a summit of the Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce, we would like this final panel session to look into the areas that the Chamber of Commerce can evolve into solving these problems. Because you see, the Chamber of Commerce sits in a very unique position within our various countries. It's the intersection between policy, which is government, and the private sector. And the Chamber of Commerce stands as the voice of business. However, beyond this traditional role of advocacy, capacity development, and trade promotion, and considering the rapidly evolving business landscape, I think the common term these days is VUCA, where there is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We have issues of artificial intelligence displacing the workplace. You have global tensions that seem to be dismantling globalization. Within this context, it's important that we look at the role and the ever-evolving role that the Chamber of Commerce will have to play when it comes to being facilitators of trade, investment, and partnerships. Specifically, our conversation will revolve around the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, but in general, we'll be speaking to regional trade facilitation. There is one question we want to be able to answer in this section, and it is this: are chambers of commerce sufficiently equipped and positioned to drive regional trade integration, or are they still largely playing an advocacy role? It is therefore my pleasure to call on the various panelists who will be helping us this afternoon, to shed more light on this topic. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Boubacar Saho, who is the Deputy CEO of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce. A round of applause for him, please. Next, please a round of applause for Mr. Solano Lamine, who is from the Guinea Chamber of Commerce. And then we have Mrs. Carmel Catherine Harris, the Secretary General of the Liberia Chamber of Commerce. Next, we have Mr. Aliou Ndiaye, Secretary General of the Senegal Chamber of Commerce. And finally, we have Mr. Olushola Obademu, the Director General of the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce. Another round of applause for our panelists as they take their seats. For the interest of time, I would have loved to throw an opening question that every panelist would answer. But considering we have just 40 minutes, I'm going to ask the question sequentially, starting from Mr. Carr from the Gambia Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Sarr from the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, my apologies. So in my opening remarks, you have expressed that this whole conversation revolves around trade facilitation and the issues of economic integration. As we've heard from the opening panel discussions, there were issues or questions raised with regards to the effectiveness of ECOWAS and perhaps the concept of countries exploring immediate bilateral partnerships as a way of triggering faster implementation along the lines of ECOWAS. So my question to you is, within the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, what are the ways in which either innovatively or traditionally you are advancing this concept of regional trade? Because obviously your members are first interested in surviving or thriving within the economy. What are the ways in which the Gambia Chamber of Commerce is working towards more effective regional integration, specifically under the AFCFTA?
Thank you very much for that very interesting and important question. And I must say that equally important is the theme for our panel. That is the role of chambers of commerce in the advancement of our economies. To understand the role the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry plays and continues to play, kindly allow me to give you a snapshot of history. The chamber was first established in 1967, 2 years after we gained independence as a country. And over the past 5 decades or more, the focus have been to serve as a liaison between the private sector and government, being an aggregator of the issues and challenges faced by the private sector and engaging government on a daily basis to seek redress to these ever-evolving challenges. To even have a deeper understanding of this is that at the level of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce, we've acknowledged and recognized that the most important partner for private sector development in Africa, in West Africa, in the Gambia, is the government. It's the government of our various countries. This is because government controls some very important instruments that are key in the progress of any private sector entity. And that is policy, legislation, and regulation. Because if we do not, or we should be able to advocate, influence, and inform these three instruments that are controlled or under the ambit of government. Because the sense of direction of the economy, the opportunities that come to bear, are all dependent on what policy, legislation, and regulatory direction of government is. Whether it has to do with innovation, whether it has to do with growth or expansion, whether it has to do with access to finance, and any other issue in any sector, you have to deal with these instruments of government. So one of the things that we continue to do is to build a very close relationship with government across board, not just the executive part of government, even the legislative arm of government. We engage the Trade Select Committee of the National Assembly, that is Parliament, to inform and influence policy and legislation at that level. Also, the regulators, be it the central bank or public utilities and regulatory authorities, to equally inform policy at that level. Because one thing we need to understand is that the private sector constitutes the economy. But the private sector does not run the economy. And it gets even more tricky because you would observe that most of our brothers and sisters who handle policy, legislation, and regulation at the highest level in relation to the business environment are not business people. And for the most part, they have never involved in business or sold anything. So these are the people, for the most part, making the rules of engagement. So how do we then equally advocate, even at the government level, to ensure that the government sometimes also recruits from the private sector? Because for us to win, we need to have, or we need to run our country like a business with a social conscience. And to do that, we need people who think like business people within government alongside the bureaucracy. So this is, or these are some of the things that we continue to do because we fully understand that the issue of advocacy cannot be understated or overstated. So this continues to be our focus moving forward. Thank you.
Very well said, Mr. Sahel. So from what you said, deepening your relationship or your partnership with government is one of the most effective ways of ensuring that the Chamber of Commerce excels with regards to trade regional integration. Now, considering that regional integration looks into the issues of free movement of persons and goods, the issues of common markets, the issues of custom union, are there any challenges that you would say the Gambia Chamber of Commerce face in the implementation of these concepts? And if yes, in what specific ways are you currently working on trying to resolve them? If you could, name some certain examples. There have been examples stated in various panels, like the working under the ETLS, the ability to have overlapping and multiple legislation. So are there specific examples you could give in that light?
Right. So it would interest you to know that the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry in the Gambia is the sole issuer of certificates of origin with regards to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So already we have some skin in the game. And hearing the previous panels that have spoken here before, the issue of cross-border trade, seems to come to the fore with regards to the number of checkpoints, the technical and non-technical barriers to trade. But please allow me to answer your question, but still deviate a little bit from the norm. Now, there's something as a Chamber of Commerce that we've also observed, again, addressing the business environment, is that something happened in the late 1800s, 1884, 1885, the Berlin Conference. People who were non-Africans sat around the table and divided the lines and decided how many countries are on the continent. The reason for this was that it worked for them. It worked for them, it worked for their trade, it worked for their ideology. It was a divide and rule. It made ruling Africa very simple and easy for them. Now, it is my opinion that having observed the ecosystem within Africa and the sub-region, we're seeing something of similar mindset happening. We have, to a very large extent, and to some point to our disadvantage, divided the ecosystem into gender and other form of demography that we need to be careful of, in my opinion. Because you see, the same gun that is used to cause harm is the same gun that we can use to defend ourselves against harm. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is that, you see, when we advocate, when we speak, when we mobilize resources for the support of the businesses, we should speak to the business environment. We should, I think, from my opinion, lower the focus on establishing the issues on the business environment on demographic basis. Because today, if you are a youth, and then you've been renting your shop for a while and you've gotten to a point where you want to build your own shop, for example, and you go to the Ministry of Lands for them to allocate land for you. They don't care if you are a youth or not. It just doesn't matter there. If you are a woman and then you go and pay your taxes, the taxman does not really care if you are a woman. You're not going to get any special discount on the fact that you are a woman. If you are a person with disability and then your electricity bill comes in for your small-scale production, they don't care if you are a person with disability in business. You would have to pay your due. Now, just like the Berlin Conference, we have to understand that to some extent, the division of the business environment into these various categories also is a form of, pacifier coming from governments and development agencies or organizations or our donor partners. I think for a long time, we've been focused. If you observe most of the countries that we admire, some of them that has made strides in development, they don't necessarily categorize their business environment into women, youth, or people with disabilities. We do understand there are social issues that affect women and the people with disabilities and so on. Those should be addressed. It's important. But the core issues of the business environment should not be divided into demographic basis, in my opinion. Because if you listen to the women that spoke, the issues that they spoke about, the problems that they face at the border, is exactly the same things that the men face, or the youth face, or the people with disability would face. So then again, let us sharpen our focus and understand that some of these elements sometimes are a pacifier. It's a divide and rule. And I'm not saying don't support women. We have to support our women in the ways that we have to support them. But let's focus on the core of the business environment and not get distracted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saud. There were various points you raised that if we had more than enough time, I would probably ask you to clarify further. But perhaps towards the end, when we are in the Q&A session, if there's an opportunity to raise some issues, because the concept you brought of categorization opens the door towards how do you then plan if you don't measure. There's a popular saying of what you don't measure, you can't control, and categorization is absolutely required for measurement. How do you know who are those who are most negatively impacted if you're not measuring? But like I said, if during the Q&A session, we'll perhaps look into that aspect further. So my next question goes to Mr. Lamine from the Guinea Chamber of Commerce. And once again, the question is speaking specifically to the AFCFTA. As I'm sure you are aware, unlike ECOWAS, just like Ambassador Aminu Akadri stated, the AFCTA is being implemented in a different manner. The ETLS under ECOWAS is a 100% removal of tariffs, whereas AFCTA is being spread across 10 years for 90% of the goods. Considering the various technicalities, the knowledge of the protocols, the knowledge of schedule of tariff concessions, what's the Guinea Chamber of Commerce doing to try and ensure that its members are fully aware of these concepts as well as also equipped to take advantage of them?
Thank you very much, but I would prefer to respond in French. Merci beaucoup, monsieur le modérateur, pour l'opportunité que vous nous offrez cet après-midi pour présenter la Chambre de commerce de la République de Guinée, ainsi que les activités que nous menons sur le terrain pour faciliter donc le commerce transfrontalier et surtout renforcer les capacités de nos acteurs économiques, puisque c'est eux qui transportent les marchandises d'un pays à un autre. Au prime abord, je souhaiterais quand même présenter la Chambre de commerce de Guinée. À l'instar de toutes les autres chambres de commerce d'Afrique, c'est une très vieille institution Mais la particularité de notre chambre de commerce, c'est qu'elle est restée dans une situation d'hibernation pendant pratiquement 20 ans. Pendant 20 ans, ça ne veut pas dire qu'elle ne fonctionnait pas, mais elle était gérée par des acteurs qui étaient nommés par le gouvernement, donc qui n'étaient pas élus, donc qui n'étaient pas forcément représentatifs donc, du secteur privé. Et c'est en 2022 que la Chambre de commerce de Guinée a été relancée. Et depuis qu'elle a été relancée, nous essayons, nous, d'abord d'identifier ceux-là qui sont considérés comme effectivement des membres de la Chambre de commerce, puisque la loi en Guinée est très claire. Tous ceux qui sont dans le secteur économique sont automatiquement considérés comme membres de la Chambre de commerce. Mais pour être beaucoup plus clair là-dessus, nous avons décidé donc d'organiser des campagnes de recensement pour identifier nos membres et les préparer donc, à la venue donc, de cette zone de libre-échange africaine. Pour parler un peu du commerce transfrontalier, nous sommes au cœur du dispositif pour faciliter donc, ce commerce transfrontalier entre la Guinée donc, et les autres pays de la sous-région. Il faut dire que la CEDEAO a mis en place, ou en tout cas un certain nombre d'instruments pour faciliter le commerce, les échanges entre les pays. Ça, c'est sur papier. Dans la pratique, nos opérateurs économiques sont confrontés à beaucoup de défis lorsque tu transportes une marchandise de la Guinée vers les autres pays de la sous-région. J'échangeais avec un des collègues de la Sierra Leone tout à l'heure qui me disait que pour prendre une marchandise de la Sierra Leone vers la Guinée et vice-versa, de la Guinée vers la Sierra Leone, vous traversez au moins 15 checkpoints. Donc, et à chaque point, vous êtes obligé donc, de payer des redevances, des taxes qui ne sont pas forcément des taxes légales, mais puisque ce sont des forces de sécurité donc, qui opèrent à ces niveaux, à ces différents barrages, vous êtes obligé donc de payer des redevances, ce qui a un impact négatif sur l'environnement des affaires dans notre sous-région. Et comme je le rappelais tout à l'heure, puisque la Chambre ne fonctionnait pas pendant plus de 20 ans, un certain nombre de nos prérogatives ont été récupérées par des agences qui ont été créées par le gouvernement. Ce qui fait que ce sont ces agences aujourd'hui qui, en réalité, gèrent le commerce transfrontalier. Je prends par exemple l'exemple du Conseil guinéen des chargeurs. Je prends l'Agence guinéenne pour la promotion des exportations qui travaille directement avec les organisations comme la CEDEAO et autres pour faciliter donc le commerce transfrontalier. Mais nous avons récemment signé des conventions avec toutes ces structures pour pouvoir travailler avec eux et faciliter le processus, puisque nous avons la même cible, ce sont les acteurs économiques. Et nous, nous fournissons beaucoup d'efforts ces derniers temps pour expliquer un peu c'est quoi la zone de libre-échange africaine à ces acteurs économiques, puisque selon les études qui ont été réalisées par des spécialistes en Guinée, on s'est rendu compte que nos entreprises ne sont pas forcément prêtes, en tout cas, à compétir avec les autres multinationales qui viennent des autres pays. D'où la nécessité de renforcer leurs capacités. La conséquence, c'est qu'ils risquent de disparaître.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Lamine. From what you have expressed, even though there has been some history of dormancy, the Guinea Chamber has been relaunched for excellence and is doing a lot of work with regards to sensitization and taking advantage of the mechanisms of ECOWAS to allow for country-level facilitation, as well as setting up multi-agency cooperation. I would use this as an opportunity to now ask exactly the same question to Mrs. Catherine Harris. Essentially, within the context of the AFCTA, what's the Liberia Chamber of Commerce doing to bridge the gap between the level of understanding and readiness of its members.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. But before I answer the question, let me just take a minute to say good afternoon to everybody who is listening. And also, I bring you greetings from the Liberia Chamber of Commerce, but particularly my president, who should have been here, but he had prior engagement. And he has asked an executive council member, Mr. Augustus Frumo, who is seated in the audience, to represent him. So, we have a strategic plan that is ending, and under our strategic plan, there is a specific pillar on how we promote trade policies and protocols to our businesses who are part of the chamber, because it has been recognized that these informations really do not trickle down to the business community after most of these acts have been ratified. Yeah, so what is the chamber doing currently? So we are arming ourselves with information as there have been a lot of trainings that our members have participated in. So recently, yesterday, in fact, there was